One of the short comedies in the festival this year is from American University graduate student Matthew Lucas, and it's entitled Dira. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So if you could just go ahead and give our audience just a brief summary of what the film is all about.
Sure. It's the story of a kind of a hapless physics professor who's bored with his job, and he decides he wants to try to make some device on his free time that can gain him access to some mysterious new dimension.
Right.
Yeah.
And what inspired the film for you?
Well, the whole thing is kind of about overthinking something that's very simple. It's a man who he really should know what he's trying to accomplish here. He should know all the ins and outs, but he can't seem to make it work as much as he tries. And it really becomes a simple answer for him, and it's kind of just about how we all look at things and try to make them more complicated than they are.
Wow. You know, and
which makes it sound really deep. It's not.
Exactly, because when you watch it, you're
Yeah.
like, even right now, you're doing the same thing that the film does.
Yeah.
You got to check it out. All right. So you did this at American University, but you went over to Prague to actually shoot it.
That's
Can you
right.
talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. AU has an agreement with one of the biggest film schools in Europe, FAMU, and it's in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And so I went over there with a couple other grad students from AU, and we teamed up to basically, the program is, it's a full-on from start to finish working on this one film. And so we were pitching every day, trying to refine the story, and then I ended up writing it and directing it, and then I had a couple other people from AU who were also DP and editor. So.
Okay, cool. Now, when you go there, it's for the semester, correct?
Exactly,
So what do
4
you have
months.
about, okay, 4
Yeah.
months.
Mhm.
And the whole time you get there, it's like you're thinking about what you want to do, you shoot it, execute, and then you edit it. I think you told me, you know, it's just like down to the wire. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. It's a hectic schedule. I mean, we spend months pitching it and refining it and writing it. And I think I wrote 13 versions of this script.
Wow.
And then, of course, I wrote it in English and had to have it translated into Czech. So there's another hurdle there before then we can even get to the casting thing. And I think by the time we were shooting, which we shot over 3 days, by the time we were shooting from that point until we screened might have been 2 weeks total.
Wow.
So it was pretty hectic. Once we got into production, we were bing, bang, boom, right through the end.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about film is that it is a visual medium, correct? So talk a little bit about that challenge, like you said, you know, to be able to direct someone in Czech. Like, you know, how was that, like the chemistry? How were you able to direct them? Because you got the performances that you needed from them, but
Sure.
What was that like?
It was a challenge. I mean, making a film, especially as the director, is really all about communication. It's about having the right things to say to the right people at the right time. And if you don't speak the language, it becomes a little bit more challenging. But we had a good group of people. We had a good. My production manager was bilingual, so she was able to translate for me when I needed that to happen. But the actors they spoke a little bit of English. I mean, because it's a major world city in that part of Europe, it's not really that difficult to find people that speak English. So I mean, they did a pretty good job. But when I was up against the wall, I had my production manager as a parrot on my shoulder, translating for me.
So one of the things that I really noticed that stands out about your film is the color within the film.
Mm-hmm.
I think you probably went through a lot just to make sure you hit those colors, but also, you know, the professor is working on this elaborate machine. Like, talk a little bit about the cinematography in the film, but then also the props, because that machine, I mean, it looks like it's a real machine that
Yeah.
works and creates this new dimension.
Well, it does work in that it lights up. That's about the only working part of it. But yeah, we spent a lot of time on production design and location scouting. Prague's a beautiful city, so there's no shortage of like really old buildings and really crazy locations. And so we found a really cool printing workshop, which is actually where we shot his like lab or whatever. So that helped give us a lot of depth. I mean, we didn't move much. It was it was pretty crazy. There was a lot of texture in that space. We hired a guy to build this machine, and it cost us maybe a couple $100, maybe $200 to get it made. But he made it from our specifications, the things that we wanted it to do, and he was crazy. He had all kinds of like he had it hooked up to this crazy remote that it was like a number pad, but if you pressed each different number, it lit up in a different way. So there was also a training period we had to go through to make sure that we knew how to operate this thing. But yeah, once we pulled it all together, we had a great cinematographer that was another student from AU, and we shot on 35 millimeter, which is not, we don't get to do that every day. So that really helped control, the textures and the color that we wanted to show.
Yeah, that's cool. So is comedy your thing, or
I'd like to think so. I don't know though. Right. You try to start out that way, but you don't ever want to let it take control. You don't want to ever write just to make sure that it's funny. So, I like to think that I come from a kind of quirky place, and so more often than not, it turns out that something funny's going on.
That's cool. So in terms of actually in production process, what was one of your favorite memories from being on set?
From being on set, well, I think actually the best thing about this was in pre-production when the translation of the script was something that the comedy of it in English was something completely different from how it ended up being in Czech.
Right.
And to sit down with my production manager I think we went maybe like 2 weeks. We sat through it and went through word by word, joke by joke, make sure that each thing would translate to it for a Czech audience. And a lot of times we ended up with stuff couldn't ever have made up. There's a lot of sexual innuendo in it, in the script that I wrote in English.
Right.
And my favorite example is this line in Czech that I could not possibly have dreamed up. It was that even with a small puppet, you can make great theater.
Wow.
And something that, has a pretty obvious meaning, I think,
Right,
but
right.
couldn't have dreamed it up in English.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So what are you doing with the film right now? Are you making the festival rounds? What?
Yeah, as I have enough money to put into to that endeavor, yeah. And that's pretty much where it's at. If we can keep doing festivals like this and get some kind of recognition. I'm working on a new short right now, and just the upward slope, we hope.
Right, definitely. So, just you're in grad school at American University. I went to American University as well. Mm-hmm. What are your plans once you graduate? Is filmmaking what you want to do full time?
Excellent question. Ask me again in like 3 months, and then maybe I'll...
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to either start a production company with some friends or find a place in some production company. Right now I do freelance script work, and I'll probably try to make stuff like that work for a while. But yeah, I mean, the goal is to maybe one of these films will catch fire someday and solve all of my problems. Isn't that what we're after?
Right, that's what the glory.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Matthew, where can people find you or follow the film if they want to?
All my information, all my projects is on my website, matthewlucas.co.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, Matthew, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, Kevin.
Appreciate it.